get started. Vanessa, did you want to talk about amending April 8th meeting minutes, or Amber?
Well, I can chime in. So the minutes are posted, and unless anyone has a change, then you don't need to vote or approve them. They would just stand as they've been posted.
All right, sounds like a plan. Next one, we want to talk about public comment. Has everyone taken a look at what was sent in, or has there been anything new added since?
There's nothing on a non-agenda item. You have one comment in the materials related to agenda item 5, but nothing new. And I'm looking to see. I don't think we have any public comments from anyone here.
Well, that sounds good, and we want to thank Russell for sending in his comment as well, just talking about getting his broker's license, how long he's been in the business in the DFW area. And I think that what we're talking about today will address some of Russell's concerns. Does anyone else have any comments on Russell's comment here or feedback? Okay, perfect. Well, thank you, Russell. That sounds like a plan. We always love to hear people comment on what we're doing, and the feedback from the field is awesome. Okay, staff update. Do you want to go through SB 1968?
Yeah, so I think Summer is going to start us off, and then we can all chime in if there's anything else to add.
Yes, so for the record, I'm Summer Mandel. I'm the Government and Strategic Communications Director for the agency. So SB 1968 is what we call the TREC housekeeping bill. So there's a lot of different provisions in it. I'm just going to go over the ones today that were recommendations from this committee, and I think they'll be of most interest to you. So the first one is the broker responsibility course requirement. So this is going to, I should say, all of this is effective January 1st, 2026. So let me go back and then restart. So the broker responsibility course is going to be required for all brokers beginning January 1st, 2026, and that's regardless of whether you sponsor agents or you intend to sponsor agents. It is delegated supervisors will still be required to take this course. So this is mostly a communications initiative that we'll be pushing out. And of course, I welcome your word of mouth communications too to folks you know, brokers who will need to be taking that course who maybe haven't taken it yet. Does anyone have questions about this?
Each license period required at each license.
Correct, and at initial application too.
Oh, prior to initial application.
Yeah, so that's
okay, perfect.
That's a big change, and that recommendation came from this group. So it will be a requirement for initial licensure as well as that renewal.
Wonderful.
You did it. Yeah.
Thank you, Summer.
Great. Yeah, I did it. All right. The next item is to provide a notice of a complaint filed against an associate broker to the brokerage being associated with. So as you recall, this was from y'all. You want to know when the brokers who associate with you are named in a TREC complaint, and this is just a notification. So we are working on drafting a letter that would say the reasons why we might notify you, because it could be related to a complaint filed or it could be related to a background check issue. Either way, it's going to be on the broker to reach out to that broker associate to find out more information, because those complaints are confidential. So if you want to follow up, you can. And we're also working on changing the TREC rules so we can include who will receive that notice of the broker associate complaint. And then we're also working in the Realm portal, which is what we're calling our new license management system, to let people identify that they associate with different brokerages. Then we would pull that information to the public facing website, which that's another piece of that broker associate conversation, is that y'all wanted to know who's associating with who. I'm not our IT director, but what we've talked about is something that's similar to the name management tool. That's the right one, right? So it would be kind of like an acceptance too. So it won't just be random people can say, I associate with Ty Williams. There's some vetting that you'll do there. Do you have any questions about this piece?
That is amazing as well. I mean, it sounds like we're making some headway here, you know?
Yeah.
So these were passed and there's just details that are being worked out.
Right. So we're kind of in the implementation phase of that, which basically means we're all getting together and saying, how are we going to make this work? This is what we need to do. It needs to be ready by January 1st. And, with the new license management system, there's some technical aspects that we've got to work through. It's not our usual system, so we can't just be like, well, here's what it can and can't do. So it's a few more levels of exploration, but that's what we're actively working on. So yes, all of that has passed. So yes, one more yes. Wow. There. All right, and another item is, I don't think that it was only from this group, but you may recall SB 510 from a previous session, which required us to take down certain personal contact information because we were not asking, is this your home address or your business address? And so this was to protect license holders' confidential information. But a lot of folks use that license holder lookup tool to find contact information. So this bill now gives us the authority to ask for that information, which we did not have prior to this. So we're going to be asking for business contact information specifically for public display. And that's going to be something that's done outside of the application process. That's an important component of it. But that will be also in the Realm portal. It should be clearly defined for a user to see that area where it's for your publicly facing contact information.
But it sounds like you're able to ask for that information, but it's not required for the licensee to provide it.
That's correct, I think.
It is a requirement to provide. So it's just has to be separate from the application.
Oh, thank you.
So it will be like a separate step essentially where we ask that, but it's license holder shall provide in the statute. So it's a requirement.
The business contact information.
Sure.
Too. Right. So it has to be posted then.
And that'll be public facing on the website as well?
That would be public facing, right.
That would be the only thing that's public facing is that specific.
So the business address and the business phone number.
Okay.
Email we cannot do because of public information law, but address and phone number we can if it's business.
Great.
People move a lot.
And there's an obligation under the statute and our rules to update that information when it changes.
Okay, wonderful.
Thanks, Abby. Yeah. All right, and just a final kind of wrap up of what might be of interest to you is this is mostly communications as well. So this bill eliminates sub-agency, which I think a lot of people are excited about. If there are any form changes related to 1968, those will also be communicated through our regular channels, social media articles, but also in our courses. So legal update, which there is a new one that will be coming out in 2026. And then the broker responsibility course when that comes out in 27.
So with the elimination of the sub-agency, is there not also a requirement for a written buyer representation agreement in this SB 1986?
So yes, and I'll let Abby talk about that in more detail.
Yeah, so the housekeeping bill does a lot of additional things.
Right.
And I know Summer was highlighting really what this group, kind of the initiatives that started here to really highlight for you. But you're right, it does a lot of other things as well, including there's language about a non-representation status. There's language about written agreements required in certain situations for buyers. So we're looking at all of those pieces. Different committees are looking at all of those pieces as well. broker lawyer committee did talk about that aspect at their actually last two meetings, not recommending any specific change coming from the broker lawyer, but they're watching to see what that looks like.
And all changes are effective January
1st. Yes. Yeah. So you'll see at the August meeting, commission meeting, there will be a lot of proposed rule changes based on the legislation in anticipation of that.
I have a quick
Very nice.
question. Quick question, really quick. You said that the information isn't going to be requested on the application, but is it requested when you associate with a broker? Like when you turn in who you're associating with, or you get online and do that?
Okay. Yeah. So that's going to be a slightly different process from the business contact information. That is what I think we were describing, similar to like the name management tool, where it's something you can go online and enter that information. It's still a requirement to provide, but I think a slightly different way that we would collect that information.
Okay. And what if it is not provided? How are we going to take care of that?
Well, the language of the statute is, again, shall provide. So if someone fails to do it, that can be an enforcement issue. And then there's also not only the shall provide language, there's the obligation to update within 10 days if that information changes. So that could be another enforcement aspect as well.
Okay, so there's going to be a procedure to go through the database to see who has provided and who has not provided?
Are you talking about broker associates, or are you talking about business?
Contact information.
So business contact information will be, so to separate the two, so there's like the broker associate name.
Right.
I'm calling it the name management tool, but there's the broker associate association form. Better word, it'll be an online process. And then there's the collection of business contact information pursuant to that specific statute under 1101 that just went through. And so that has to be done, just for everyone's understanding. We're collecting that separate from an application, but as part of that online process, because there are confidentiality requirements still under 510 associated with an application. So we're going to collect that business contact information. And I think as Abby is saying is, so you'll be required to enter that information. It's a requirement under statute. There's requirements associated with keeping that up to date, and changing it, within, I don't remember what the timeline was that you get, 10 days. I don't think there will be like a specific home through of all business contact information to determine whether it's up to date. I'm not sure how, but I don't know that we would have the ability to make that connection of whether someone's business contact.
No. What I'm asking is initially, because obviously you have a bunch of people or a bunch of licensees that don't have anything up there right now. So how are we initially going to make sure all that information is uploaded?
The initial collection of.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's a process we're working through right now, but it will likely take the shape of we call it a form, but it's just almost an additional step. And I'm the last person that should be speaking about a database, but it's basically an additional step in the public facing side of our database. Is that the best way to describe it?
And I think the benefit, it's like a little bit of a double-edged sword to be launching a new process at the same time, but it does mean license holders will be touching the online process. So that will be something that they have to fill out. Now, maybe you don't quite catch, everyone all at the same time, but as that rolls out, everyone's going to have to create their own login, and then there's going to be that step. So it'll be a little bit of a slow roll, but in some ways I think it's really beneficial because you'll have people out there making accounts and starting to get their stuff ready.
So there'll be a sort of like a campaign to get this information.
Yeah. And we can also talk in these implementation meetings about whether the tool can make it something that's a required field. I don't know.
Yeah, we're not there yet.
We're not there yet, but it's, we can certainly talk through it and see if that's a capability. But yes, I think it will be part of the broader. It will be separate, but it will also be included in the conversation around come to the new portal, set up your dashboard, your information, your login, your contact information is required for public facing
Right, because
services.
that's something that's going to happen for any management of the license in the new system is the creation of the account. So that'll be rolled into that.
That's why I think it works. It actually ends up working out really well.
In our favor that it's
a new system and a new.
But is that requirement only at the renewal period, the 2-year renewal period, or are we going to make a requirement that it has to be done with X amount of time?
That business contact information is a requirement to provide, and then if it changes within the 10 days, that's all the same. So, whether it's your mailing address or your business address or, who you associate with, it's all with that same language of if it changes, it's within 10 days.
Yeah, I'm just talking about initially.
I think we're working on that. I don't,
Gotcha.
I think, like I said, I think a lot of people are going to go in and create their accounts because that's going to be the way you manage your license. And so I think you'll catch a lot of people there. There may be people that you catch on renewal. That's the part we're trying to, the implementation of it's a little bit tough depending on like when we touch the license. But I think with the campaign and with the launch and asking everyone to create those accounts, you're going to catch.
At the latest, it will be renewal.
Right.
Hopefully, we will gather a lot sooner.
Exactly.
What if the campaign was more strategic to brokers so that they inform their offices of everybody to go in, hey, let's have a meeting and everybody go in and update.
Right. And I think Summer will target it in different ways, and Sierra, they'll have those approaches. But that's a great idea of ways in which we can do it.
Yeah.
So, with everything, I think things will slow sometimes with the government, but I think we're really poised here with the launch of the database. And yes, I do think it'll be more intuitive. I am actually pretty excited. I'm saying that about IT, which is wild, but it's when I look at it, I'm like, oh, I've seen stuff like this before. I'm basically just creating my account and then I'm putting this stuff in and it's going to auto-populate into what I want it to auto-populate into. I think that is going to be huge for everyone. And I don't think it's not this thing that for me as a terrible tech user, that I've not seen before. I'm like, oh yeah, it's one of these. I get this. I can make an account. I can do this. So I think everyone, if I can do it, that'll be the campaign. If I can do it, everyone.
Do you have an anticipated rollout date for that portal, tool, whatever? Dashboard?
Really working on it. Really working.
We want it to be yesterday.
Yeah. But obviously the concern is the law requires by January 1. And, if it's available September 1, that at least gives some months to work on it. I suspect there's a ton of licensees that have never been into that My License portion of the website.
Oh, yeah.
You have to every time you renew.
Yeah, with a 97%
98
renewal rate.
98 renewal rate. Online?
Most, even though it might only be every 2 years that they engage with the system,
Yeah.
the online renewal rate tells us that the bulk of them are going online. Even for sponsorship, change of sponsorship transactions, changing contact info, a lot of that is done through that self-service portal. Even on our very old system.
Didn't we already have that information when we turned everything off?
We can't make the distinction because it wasn't collected as business contact information. And this is something that a lot of, I think, licensing agencies in particular struggled with, the language of their statute.
Okay.
So that's why we specifically went and got that business contact info aside from, I think it's mailing address. And we're collecting it separately per our discussions with the Attorney General's office as it relates to the display of information under 510 and related to an application. So I don't need to get into all of it, but I will tell you that it has been a very thought out process of how can we collect this information, this business contact information, and publicly display it without skirting the 510 the rules.
Public information.
Thank you. I don't know why I can't say that. The Public Information Act, which we know was really geared more towards personal contact information, but didn't quite. It ended up being, I think, more encompassing than probably it was intended to be. So there's been a lot of thought and discussions back and forth regarding public information law and the AG and what they would find acceptable, and we've really landed here in what we think will be the solution. It's going to take, things take a little bit of time to get information from 200,000 plus license holders, but we will get it, and we're pretty pumped. I think we did it.
Yeah, well, it sounds good. I thought, well, if we turned it off, can't we just turn the switch back on, and then let them update?
Mix. Yeah, it's a mix of that information, and because it's confidential, we really can't take a chance with that. Even though I know it was on, right?
Understand. Thank you.
Well, that was a good explanation. And I'm excited that we're going to bring it back. So that's good news. All right. Let's talk about the next agenda item, unless we've got something else for 1968.
Not from me.
All right. Well, let's do this. Thank you, Summer, by the way, and Vanessa and Amber. Appreciate you guys. Discussion and possible action regarding broker license education and experience requirements. This is what we're all here for right now. So how do we want to go about discussing this? I know you guys were working on verbiage and things of that nature for the, how we're going to proceed and be presented to commissioners at the next meeting, hopefully. But I wanted to follow up on that one. It looks like we've got a bunch of information here.
So
how would you guys like to?
If I could make a suggestion, I could kind of just briefly walk through this, and then if there's any questions, we can answer and go from there. If that sounds okay.
That sounds great.
Okay. So Amber's got this posted on the screen. So this is what we did. We took the recommendations from your last meeting, and we basically plugged them into the rules. So the first change that you see on your screen, we'll just kind of take these one by one. So this is the rule dealing with those initial requirements for a broker's license, education and experience requirements. Under subsection A, which is what you're looking at now, is our education requirements for broker's license. And in subsection 2, you'll see this is where that bachelor's degree credit, for lack of a better word, existed in our rules. So it used to say, if you earned a bachelor's degree or a higher degree from an accredited college or university, it will be deemed to satisfy the related education requirements. So we've added, per your recommendation, that it will be deemed to have satisfied 300 classroom hours. So not the entire 630 hours, just not up to, but 300 classroom hours. So that's the first change. Number 3 there, this is a new section. So this is this trade concept you recommended last time. So the education credit for experience. So subsection A, an applicant can receive up to 300 classroom hours of related education required. That's again, that's 630 hours for qualifying practical experience above the minimum 720 points. And again, we increased, for those of you that remember the recommendation from last time, we increased the minimum experience requirement from 360 to 720. So that's why it says 720 here. So basically up to 300 classroom hours for anything above that minimum 720 points of experience. B just says that, we will calculate it as we do in subsection C for any experience points. And then the actual credit in C, it says for every 2 experience points above that minimum 720, credit for 1 classroom hour of the related education will be rewarded. So that's how we'll get to whether or not they get any of that 300 classroom hour credit. So that's that section. Scrolling down, we're now into experience requirements. And in B2, you'll see again the change from the minimum 360 experience points requirements to 720. That was the recommendation. So that's been reflected there. And then we go to subsection C, which is the actual credit for experience, how it's calculated. And so you'll see in the property management sections, the recommendation was to change that to a per property per year calculation. So that language has been added in those instances. And then the delegated supervision category, we changed that per your recommendation to say 3 points per transaction rather than the 12 points per month. The final thing I just wanted to point out, and just for your thought and discussion. So when we were going through this, I've highlighted it's the language under subsection C, let's see, 2C, C2C. So 2 talks about commercial transactions, and you'll note that there's points that can be awarded for commercial transactions for rental property management rent collection. So just some food for thought on this one. We actually, the commission, does not have jurisdiction over commercial property management rent collection. We only have jurisdiction over residential, which could touch on farm and ranch as well. But by statute, we only have jurisdiction over the residential side. So the question that we wanted for you to think about is whether that makes sense to continue to count that experience for a broker's license if it's not a regulated activity. It may make sense to keep that, may not, but just wanted to point that out. Just for an additional point of reference, ESAC did recently revise a couple of courses. I believe real estate brokerage was the one where they removed part of the outline. They removed the commercial property management from the course outline. So for that very reason. So I just wanted to highlight that for you, just for consideration. But all in all, these were our at least attempt to make the changes that were recommended by this committee in the rule.
Abby, a question with regard to commercial property management.
Yes.
That's not a regulated activity. Are commercial sales?
Commercial sales are regulated. Commercial leases are regulated. It's just not the rent collection, the property management aspect of the commercial side that's regulated.
Interesting. Okay.
I didn't know that either. Yeah.
In our previous, in our current spreadsheet for documenting your experience points, do we have a commercial property management category?
We do. The form mirrors what's in the rule. So because it's in the rule, it's in the form.
So Abby, I have a question. That is, so just to clarify there, does that mean that a license is not required to do commercial property management? Is that the clarity there?
That's correct. That is probably a clearer way to say that.
Interesting. So
leasing is a license to lease commercial property, but if all we're talking about is rent collection for a commercial property, then that's not regulated. You would not need a license for that.
Marketing and selling.
But we've historically been giving experience points for that activity.
Yes.
You just highlight it because it's kind of it's a topic that's become.
Yeah, it's not that you have to take it out. There may be reasons that you think that's useful to include as a point for or points for broker experience to obtain a license. But again, just wanted to highlight that for you for discussion purposes.
Well, I think part of the activities in the management, is vendor relations. It's the same thing as the residential side. So there's a lot that mirrors in commercial. I think it should stay because there's a lot of aspects that the commercial use that are very similar to the residential in terms of relationship building and the vendor management, all that. I think it's wise to keep it.
We didn't have to have a license to do property management until 2011 from the residential side. So I was doing it for 20 years before that. And so were a lot of other people. And so I think it's good to leave it in there on the commercial side, because they're still doing the same types of duties. They just don't have a particular regulation. But it took a long time. We worked on getting it on the rental side, and it took until 2011 to get it done. So, for decades we were doing the same thing on the residential side.
I agree. I still think it's an activity, even though it may not be regulated. I still think it's an activity. Does anybody disagree?
Mr. Chair, I have a question. And that is, are there any unintended consequences? For example, if an unlicensed commercial property manager got licensed as a license holder, and then 3 years later, 4 years later, applied for a broker's license, could they then count 5 years of commercial management during a period of time in which they were not a licensee toward their broker's license? Just curious if something like that could occur.
So the answer would be no, because that experience is required to be active experience by a license holder. So as a sales agent in that case.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Good question.
Good question. Okay, I think it was a very good explanation and something good to highlight. Any other feedback on that? All right, I think in my mind, I think we're all good with leaving it as is. Very good explanation, though. Anything else you wanted to go over there?
No. So really, then we kind of turn the draft over to you all for discussion, and you really have sort of three options. One is you could recommend the draft as it's written to go forward to the commission at their August meeting. You could recommend changes, which may or may not require us to make changes and come back to you at a subsequent meeting. Just depends on what they are. Or, the third, there's always, you don't have to recommend anything. You could say, no, this isn't it.
All right, that's a very good point. All right, anyone have any recommendations on this besides what we've gone over? I feel like I looked it over. I feel like it's pretty all-encompassing, and staff did an amazing job on this.
Agree.
I'm good with it.
I move or recommend that we move forward with recommendation to the commission, this draft as it's written.
Second.
Nice.
Second.
Third.
Fourth. So Brian made the motion. I believe Marvin seconded.
Yes.
So just any discussion at that point? There's not, you can move to the vote.
I don't have any discussion. I think we're good.
Call for a vote, Ty.
All right, let's call this for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Excellent. Passed. Cannot wait.
Okay, so we will move this forward for the commission at their August meeting. I have to say the really lawyer thing now, which is, I know we've talked about this extensively in the past, but the governor's office does look at our rules. So there's always the potential that they could say, you know, listen, let's not propose this right now. We want to look at this. We want to think about it a little bit more. So if that doesn't show up on the August meeting agenda, that may be why. But anyway, just for full transparency.
Thank you. Let's start making some phone calls, guys.
People, don't do that.
Jokes. All right, that's really exciting. I'm excited. That was a lot of work, guys. You know, this has taken years to get done, so we pulled it together. This was a team effort, and we all came together with some really good stuff. So I'm super proud and super excited. So even if it is pulled off the agenda for the next meeting, we did it. We did it here. So I'm proud of you guys. All right.
Tell us about not making phone calls.
Yeah, so just don't make any phone calls. We'll just let this one go through the process. You know, there's open meeting considerations. We'll just let this go through.
Sounds like a plan. All right. Well, I'm very excited. Let's get on to the next agenda item. Let's see here. Discussion and possible action regarding requirement for broker to remove team names. And I believe where we left off on our last discussion was we talked about possibly making this a education piece. And I think we talked about Summer sending something out on the requirement for the brokers need to update team names and remove them as they leave or what have you. And I think we were going to have some more discussion on it, but anybody would like to provide some feedback or some other further discussion on this item here?
Yeah, this is Summer. I just want to know that we have pushed that out in Trek Advisor and on social media, and we're putting it in the legal update course as well. And with that, something that can be ongoing. It's a pretty evergreen topic.
Thank you, Summer. That was amazing, by the way. And I think it's really, since it's already there, they just need to do it. People need to make those changes. The brokers need to do what they need to do so we can clean up the database. So thank you, Summer. Anybody else have any discussion or comments on this? Perfect. Let's go on to the next agenda item, number 7, discussion and possible action regarding future meeting topics. Anybody would like to add something for a future meeting topic today?
A discussion topic came up in meetings at Texas Realtors last week, and people were talking about activities by transaction coordinators. A lot of TCs, many TCs are licensed and many are not licensed. And so the topic was, should we be looking at transaction coordinators with regard to licensing? So something
And I know Marvin was involved in something on that as well.
Yes.
So Marvin's our expert.
Well, and actually, Summer did a great job on a piece. In fact, I looked at this yesterday in the context of an internal scenario with our company. But I feel like we have a lot of clarity out there right now on what's required, what's not required. I feel like or at least internally at Trek, there's clarity that a licensed transaction coordinator needs to have written authority from their broker to do transaction coordination outside that brokerage. That also involves the payment of the flow of funds. So I think, in my opinion, we have clarity within the Trek organization. Maybe it's a matter of communication, education, explanation to the profession. I'm certainly open to additional thoughts on that.
I will note that article that you're talking about, Marvin, is also in the broker responsibility course. That's out right now. So as well as, available to anyone who looks for it, but it is part of that, the course practicum.
I think we definitely need to look at this and showing services due to the recent bill that was passed about having just a showing agreement without any representation, and the broker's responsibility when their agent collects the money without them knowing or without any sort of permission. How is the consumer being protected? I think there's a lot of discussion around this, especially with the new document that's going to have to be signed.
Showing services, direct payment to agent, bypassing broker, and
Yes.
representation.
Mm-hmm.
That's an issue. Correct.
100% agree.
Additionally, on transaction coordinators, I would be concerned about licensing transaction or requiring a license for transaction coordination, because then a lot of the activity that a transaction coordinator does is not licensed activity. So really, it's a matter of a broker being very clear with their licensees on what they're doing that requires a license, what they're doing that does not require a license, and then just making sure that there's implementation and alignment with those regulations.
So just for open meeting purposes, we want to be a little careful about, having discussions about this beyond just trying to determine what is a future meeting topic. We can certainly add, any of these topics to the agenda for discussion.
I'm in favor of further discussion for sure.
Okay, so we'll clarify. We will add transaction coordination. That way we can do a little bit deeper dive into that, and then we can add direct payment and or showing services on how to handle that with the change in what we've got coming up, and for for buyer representation. So it's kind of like all encompassing in that direct payment showing services, I guess we want to call the topic.
Okay. And then of course, you'll have any, if the rules, are proposed at the August meeting, then there'll be a period of public comments.
Also, this new form, how are these showing agents providing the minimum services we require?
Well, actually, another good point is,
we have those conversations for the October meeting.
all right. And then as far as anything else we want to add to the next agenda? We've got two pretty good topics here. Anything else anyone would like to add here? All right. Let's move on to agenda item number 8, discussion and possible action regarding future meeting dates. We're looking at October 15th right now at 10 a.m. Everybody good with that? Perfect. Let's stick with October 15th, 2025 at 10 a.m. And if that's it, that means that the meeting is adjourned. Congratulations, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Have
That's
a
a
great
record.
afternoon.
That's a record right
Thank
there.
you.
Job well done.
Bye, guys.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.